Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to go ahead and get started on Chapter 11, Adult Students in Occupational Education. For some of you, especially whenever those of you that are doing secondary work, this may be something that may not apply to you, but from many definitions of adult learners, anyone 16 years of age or older is considered an adult. Now, of course, maybe they're considered an adult, but certainly maybe they don't have the maturity that an adult we would think it would have. But for those of us in the technical and community college ranks, the individuals that we deal with more often than not are people who have graduated from high school and are what we would consider adult learners. So let's see what Chapter 11 has to say about the adult learner. And I guess this kind of leads me into a little, what I would call Lever's lagniappe here, that I want to kind of talk about. I guess one of my pet peeves, and I guess I've got a whole bunch of them, is this. Have you ever seen a word called pedagogy? Now, pedagogy is one of these graduate and maybe baccalaureate level words that we get in educational courses. But it doesn't, all it means is the techniques that we use to teach. And there's all kinds of techniques that you and I can use. But pedagogy is usually associated with children. We use a whole bunch of techniques to teach kids. And we also kind of keep using those techniques as they get older. And as we're going to see, there are some things that happen during the maturation process where this needs to change. And so let me kind of introduce another word to you. I've already kind of misspelt it. Word called andragogy. This name was put together or created by a gentleman by the name of Malcolm Knowles. Malcolm Knowles is one of the fathers of adult education. And I would highly recommend that you read what he has to say about the adult learner, because what we're going to talk about in this particular lesson is almost straight out of his research and his approach to learning. Andragogy deals with adults right here. And as you're going to see, there are some differences. And I'll try to draw on some of those as we kind of go through the slides here. But pedagogy is how we teach children. Andragogy is how we teach adults. So I'm going to kind of move on now. One of the things about adult learners is that they are more self-directed. And there's a lot of reasons for that. They become more focused in their desire to learn because they see a need for it. Many of them have already been out, held jobs, have families, have children, um, and have some experience. And so they aren't worried about all the social aspects of maybe a educational process like in high school, junior high school, where children are, you know, getting to know each other and have more social interaction. Here, they're focused on learning something to benefit them. And like I mentioned, they have a greater experience base. Children don't have that. Many times, I guess we can almost tell them whatever we want, and they'll believe us. Adults, that's not the way it works. They have been out in the world. They have seen things. They've experienced things. And so we have to really know our stuff. We have to also be able to explain it to them in the ways that they need to learn it, because sometimes their experience is all wrong. For example, in our truck driving program, we have a whole lot of individuals that say that they can drive a truck. And when they get behind the wheel, they've got all the wrong skills, especially when it comes to shifting a transmission. It takes a long time for our instructors to help them unlearn those bad habits so they don't, bust a $30,000-$40,000 transmission and have to get it repaired or replaced. So we have to understand that adults bring something to the table, and we have to be able to adapt to that. Now, that kind of leads into, as it's just saying right here, less flexible about accepting information contrary to their beliefs. You and I need to teach them the right way, and sometimes we just have to deal with them and help them unlearn their bad habits. The fourth point is very important. They learn more slowly, but just as well. Children are like sponges. They just take knowledge and information and they just suck it up like a dry sponge. Well, adults will do the same, but not as fast. As we mature, our brains stop growing, and as we mature and get older, our brains are just totally different than children's brains. And so our learning also changes. Many times we're more hands-on rather than sight or auditory. So be aware that adults are going to learn a bit slower than children, but they can learn just as well. It just may take a little extra time. And certainly they enroll in our programs for a specific purpose. If they weren't there to get an education or to get a better job, get more opportunities, we wouldn't see them. If they were satisfied with their lot in life, then they would not be darkening our doors. They are there for a purpose. And for 100 students, they got 100 different reasons. And so, but they are reasons that are important to them. And many times they'll pay for the instruction out of their own pockets. We do have a lot of financial aid that we can offer them, but many times students will pay their own way. And since they're just like any consumer, they expect something for what they pay for. And they are motivated to learn, goal-oriented, and will drop out if the goals are not met. If they aren't getting satisfied in their educational experiences, they are gone. I've seen that happen too many times in my situation, where students will start off with gangbusters, and they'll be just motivated, and all of a sudden, never see them again. Evidently, they find out that there's more to my courses than what they thought. Maybe they're more difficult than what they thought, but they have no problem just dropping out and disappearing. And then maybe coming back, pop back in. So, a whole lot different than in a elementary, secondary, or junior high situation. And then, last but not least, they will enroll for avocational interest. We have some learners who just want to take a class just because they want to learn something. I remember a young lady wanted to take welding. We don't get a whole lot of female welders that come through Acadian campus, and especially female welders that have a degree in art. This lady wanted to learn how to weld because she wanted to make metal sculptures, and she wanted to learn how to braze. Now, I'm no expert on art, but this lady wanted to learn how to handle a welding machine, and as far as I know, she learned everything she wanted to learn in about 1, maybe 2 semesters, and she was gone. She learned what she wanted, and then I assume she put into practice what she learned. We've had the same situation happen in business, where students will come in, I want to learn Word, I want to learn Excel. They come in, take a course, and they're gone. It met their expectations. And so that's another role that we can play in post-secondary education, is not to be afraid to take those avocational learners and meet their needs, which are just as important as our full-time students. Now, let's talk a little bit about the bodies of adults. As we get older, our bodies change, and some people will say change for the worse. Well, I won't go there, but there are some issues that we have to address and know that exist. First of all, their reaction time of adults will be slower than those of teenagers, young people. Especially whenever we're dealing with moving types of equipment. We just need to deal with and understand that safety is extremely important, as we've said, but yet the adult learner has to understand that they need to be able to follow some safe practices, because their reaction times will not be as quick as maybe someone a bit younger than them. We've already mentioned about the speed of learning. Adults take a little longer to learn, but no doubt that they can learn. And sometimes that's kind of difficult in a semester setting, since you only have like 13 or 15 weeks to learn something. Maybe I just hate to see someone fail a course or else do bad in a course where it took them a little longer to learn. Back when we were trade schools, we utilized what was called individualized instruction, and a student could learn at their own rate. And from any instructor that taught during that time will tell you, and I'll tell you, since I taught drafting when we were trade schools, you find out real quick who catches on and who doesn't. And your students separate themselves very quickly in their speed of learning. And sometimes we put a lot of great drafting students to work who took a month longer, maybe 6 weeks longer to learn some things than some students that didn't. And so every learner is different, but we just need to understand that. And effective learning. Now, one thing about an adult learner, when they're going to learn something, they will know it, because they maybe for a child they can just memorize something for a short period of time to be able to take a test and pass it. But these adult learners, the depth of their knowledge is a whole lot better. And so when they learn something, it's learned. And it's just wonderful to see adult learners really, whenever the light goes on and they understand a concept that they had difficulty with all their lives, and they know it, they can do it, like they were born with the ability. Then we have visual acuity. When we get old, our eyes start going out. Our vision undergoes changes, and I guess I'll just kind of look at also pulling in hearing, the next point into that. Our hearing and our vision tends to get worse. Obviously, adults wear glasses to fix their vision problems. They may have hearing aids. And so we just need to be able to address those issues when they arise. And just know that they are going to be there in the adult learner. And then finally, the life stages. Like I said before, adults have been out in the world. Some of them may have families. Some of them may be going through a whole lot of life transitions. They may be divorced. They may be widowed. Widows or widowers. They may be taking care of children, maybe be taking care of grandchildren. Life is complicated for these people. And we as adult educators need to be able to understand that that is what they bring to the table. I know this particular or last fall, things were pretty quiet the week of Thanksgiving around Acadian campus. Our semester schedule had a Thanksgiving break towards the end after Thanksgiving. We had a few days off afterwards. But many of the school systems were off the week of Thanksgiving, from Monday through that Friday. Well, many of our business students, a lot of my Dev Ed students, have children in the public schools. And I must have got at least half a dozen of those students coming to me saying, "Dr. Vera, I can't make it to class. I have to stay home and take care of my kids. I don't have anyone to stay with them. And so uh, many of us have just kind of looked at the calendar and kind of blocked out our instruction to kind of take into account those kinds of things, like not giving tests during that week, or giving more individual kind of work that students could do from home, or utilizing online stuff like Moodle for them to be able to do that. And let's face it, that is a concern for these individuals. They're very conscientious in their educations, but yet they can't afford a babysitter to take care of their kids. And so that kind of adaptation is one thing that adult educators have to face on a regular basis. These people have lives, and many times they're very, very, very complicated. So, what do we do to manage adult learners? Well, normally material control is less of an issue. Hopefully with the maturity of these learners, and let's face it, if we can't trust them in our labs, there's no way that we could trust them whenever they go to work and give a good recommendation to them to potential employers. If we can't trust what they do in our labs, and certainly because of their maturity, chances are they won't be making as many mistakes as maybe a younger learner will, because of their skill level. And so usually we can get by with a whole lot less waste from the material standpoint with adults rather than younger learners. Housekeeping is more individualized. Certainly with that maturity, those adult learners will take care of their own housekeeping, keep their work areas clean and safe. And safety duties are not individually assigned. Usually, adult learners, everybody will take part in that housekeeping. And because, let's face it, everybody's got to look out for everybody else. That's how it's done in industry. They need to be able to work as teams and as a group, and know that everybody's safety is everybody's responsibility. And we don't usually assign them to equipment repair or maintenance unless it's required. Adult learners don't want to be bothered with busy work. Now, if there's a definite need for them to be able to gain that experience doing a repair or doing some maintenance, then by all means get it done. But they can be turned off real quickly by just busy work. And then co-educational concerns. Let's face it, our vocational education classes, for the most part, are still sort of segregated by gender. We have a whole lot of people going into specific occupations that have traditionally been male or female. But then there are some where there's a good mix, and so certainly I think that's a great thing, because that can give a whole lot of experience to adult learners and how it is to work in the real world. Men and women are going to be working out there. They just soon get used to it. So that sort of wraps up this lesson. And so we are almost done. We only have one more to go. And I will be putting that one together next week.